CX Leaders panel. So we have John and Tammi. I know a lot of you here are leaning into CX as part of your career. I know one of you just got promoted recently into a CX role. We saw the slide yesterday. CX titles are the fastest growing title in professional services. So I thought it'd be great to bring some CX leaders up to the stage to share their journey and talk about their experience and their roles as CX leaders, not just because they're passionate about it, but because it's literally their job. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we are down Angela, who's home unwell, so keep her in your mind. She sends her regrets and really wishes she could be here. But we'll start off with just some introductions. So John, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. By the way, this is a great, I've had such a good time yesterday, some great sessions, and looks like most people showed up this morning, so it's awesome.
That's good. So we
More to
had
come
fun,
back
but
for.
not too much fun last night.
I heard some people were out late last night,
Yeah,
which is awesome. Good group to hang out with. Good morning. My name is John Rinehart, and so it's a little bit of a modified introduction. When Ryan and I went through the questions. Up until last week, I was the director of client experience. Is this too close?
Good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Director of client experience for a company called RapidScale, which is a company that was purchased by Cox Communications. So they last year were RapidScale is a $50 million managed cloud services provider. And just to give you an idea of their namesake, the RapidScale went from $25 million annualized revenue up to $50 million in 1 year, so doubling the size of the company. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Everything, and you'll find this about my personality, I tend to run toward chaos. I don't know why. There's therapy taking care of that. But I got an opportunity, started about 3 months ago, to join a startup. And so as of last Monday, I'm officially the chief customer officer for a new company called FastBridge Fiber, which is a greenfield fiber. It's called greenfield, which is essentially we're going to go into areas that are not served properly by incumbent providers and go provide internet services into those communities. So I'm very excited about that.
Right. And then Tammi.
Tammi Nagucki. I'm with Environmental Design Group and been there for 4 years. I started off as director of marketing and brought CX to the firm, and 2 years later became a principal of the firm and promoted to a CX role. So yeah, I'm super excited to be in this environment, in this field, and bringing some of that CX to an industry that doesn't typically use it very well.
Great. So Tammi, I'm going to ask you the first question. How did you get stuck with CX?
You say stuck like that. So, no, I don't think I got stuck with it. It's interesting as I jumped into this industry about 7 or 8 years ago. In a construction firm and I had a brand new boss who was super energetic and came from a consumer marketing background. He was vice president of marketing for Sherwin-Williams, and he knew nothing about the AEC industry, nothing about any sort of professional services marketing at all. But he wanted to try all the things that he'd tried in consumer marketing in our industry. So he sent me out to Vegas to go to a CX conference with Adobe. And I came back with my head filled with ideas because I already loved the idea of CX. I knew what customer experience was, and I loved what the big brands were doing, and that's all they were talking about out at Adobe. And I just got sucked in so much. And like, why couldn't we try that in our industry? Why couldn't a construction firm do that? And so I came back with all these ideas, and I had my list that I wanted to do and all of the money that was going to be associated with it. And he's like, whoa, time out. You know, I wanted you to get maybe 1 or 2 cool ideas and bring them back and we'll try them. And he's like, no, I want the whole thing. I want the whole CX. And it just wasn't going to happen there. So I left that firm with his blessing and went to a firm that just fully embraced any innovation and really wanted to jump in with both feet and trusted me to lead that charge. And I haven't looked back. I met Blake out at Zweig back in 2019, I think it was, and started talking CX with him. Subsequently met Ryan, and just the ball started rolling from there. And I was able to bring all of the things that I've been dreaming about, bringing to life in CX for our industry through that process. And I'm really lucky where I am now. The president of our company is a huge supporter of mine, both in marketing and in client experience. And he still asks me every week, hey, what's next? What are we doing next week that's going to be different and differentiate us from our competitors? So I have to have an answer for him every week, and I try to do that.
So there's like a year's worth of ideas sitting in this room. So write an idea on a Post-it note, give it to Tammi.
Right, yeah. Thank you, yeah.
And John, what's your history on
Yeah.
journey to CX?
It was somewhat accidental. I mean, the title of client experience for me didn't really exist until about 3 years ago. I started my career as an engineer, as I think some of you have, more in a more technical route. But I always swirled around involving myself directly with our clients, whoever I may be working for at the time. And the idea was is always trying to fit and help them with their needs against what services and products we were offering. So when I joined RapidScale 3 years ago, this was at the time they were about a $12 million a year company with about 40 employees, and they said, John, we need you. We just got purchased by Cox, and we need someone to come in and run account management. That's what they called it, but the title was client experience. And I go, okay, that sounds fun. And I quickly realized that account management was a bit of a broom closet where they just stuck all the problems. They're like, well, if we can't figure it out, we'll just give it to account management. And so as we grew, and this was, I think it was just a lightning in a bottle, I was just in the fortunate position of having access to all the different parts of the organization in RapidScale, architecture and support and sales, and started to insert myself in a lot of those processes as we were still forming them. So I got to sort of carve my name in the concrete before it hardened, so to speak. And what I found is that the more I asked questions about what the pain of not just what our clients were experiencing, but our clients interacting with our internal groups. So just real quick, if you're not familiar with managed cloud services, imagine that you go in and you have 400 employees or 1,000 attorneys, and none of them can get access to any of their documents. Or you go in one morning and all of a sudden something that you thought was backed up is no longer there and it's gone. That's what we did, and we had those kind of problems. So you can imagine the temperatures went from zero to high very, very quickly. And so my group had to insert themselves in the middle of all of that and work through that balancing between the client and the internal groups within RapidScale. So it was it grew from there and kind of to where I am today.
And you shared a story in our preparation around the business case that you started to see from your efforts in CX.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that?
So as I found, what I found out is that as opposed to being reactive, which is where I started, is that in order for us to continue to grow, to be successful, is that we had to start doing more proactive things. So what I found is that from account management and customer success, client success, is that we had to start building a path. And all the feedback that you're getting is discerning between noise. There's a lot of noise in the business that we're in, and discerning that between truly what can you do to make a difference in how you're projecting your path going forward, especially in a fast-growing organization like ours. And that requires a lot. You have to be in the middle of a lot of very messy things, messy relationships, messy situations with clients, and dealing with stovepipes, fiefdoms, whatever you want to call them, of how to move that forward. So I did have a good sponsor in our general manager who ran the company, and he supported. So I came to him with a couple things in terms of what we needed to do. For example, I'll give you an example. At the time, we had about 1,500 clients, and we were treating all the clients the same. So a client who was paying us $100,000 a month was getting the same treatment in terms of response time as a client who was paying us $1,000 a month. And obviously, that may land for you for some of the industries that you're in, but the idea is like, hey, we can't continue to treat all clients the same. Now, obviously, they deserve a professional level of support, but clients who are here absolutely. Those are the ones that we need to circle our best resources and our most productive resources around to make sure that that they stay happy and stay with us.
And that impacted your churn quite a bit.
Yeah, so when I came in, our churn was as high as that, and again, I'll define churn. So this is the idea: we're in recurring revenue. So let's just say we had $1,000 a month as an example, and the idea in that industry is about a 1% churn. You're just going to have clients that leave for different reasons, whether you have control or not. But the industry average is a little above 1% churn, which means per month, yes, per month. So $1,000 per month. 1% of that is $10. Right? So if you do that monthly, the idea is that if you're in a growth company, churn is not really good. So when I came in, we were seeing churn as high as 4% per month. And it just, if you imagine that you're trying to grow, every client that leaves, you're trying to make that up and plus your growth. So it put a lot of pressure. So the idea was to keep churn down as much as possible. So that was the metric that our company used. You may have one in your respective companies. But fast forward 3 years, or last year and going through the first half of this year, our churn was actually under 0.5%. So some of the programs are starting to see fruit. Hopefully that continues.
So John shared how he had to work across several silos in the organization to make change. Tammi, how are you in your role? We all know historically marketing doesn't necessarily carry the weight across an organization in professional services. How have you been an influencer or an agent for change inside EDG?
Yeah, change management is a real issue, and certainly with our industry, it seems to be amplified a little bit. I mean, it really is a resistance that we face every day with just about every initiative that we roll out. So we had to start a communication plan on this probably a year before we actually intended to do anything about it. And the way I did it, coming from the marketing side of things, communication's my background, that's what I do. So I knew that I could at least get that part of it right. And I started by having all of the people that wanted to, everybody in the company that wanted to have a say in how our client experience program rolled out, I invited them to workshops. And I got pretty good turnout. Probably about 70% of the company wanted to participate. And we had to do it over Zoom, unfortunately, because of COVID, but brought them in, got all of their ideas, shared some things that Client Savvy had provided to me to help me out with that conversation, and let them kind of pick and choose what was going to be beneficial for their clients. They were in direct contact with their clients. They knew them better than I did. So getting that input from them and having them really dive in and pull out the pieces of CX that they thought they'd like to explore. And then I just brought them the information. Here's what you said you wanted to try to do. Here's some things, some tools that we can get there. What do you think of the tools? Let them try out the tools. And it really was a long, arduous process. Mm-hmm. But at the end, I got pretty good buy-in from all of our project managers. And at that level, that's where I needed the support. They were the ones that were going to be interacting with the clients on a daily basis, and I needed their support. And of course, I had leadership support as well. So, having both ends come together to bring that in, I really think that the communication plan over those months was probably the most important part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and me personally being in your office just last month and getting to work with some of your project managers and frontline staff, it's like, wow, this is like the easiest group of project managers I've ever had to work with before. So
they're super energetic, lots of energy they bring to everything, and we have a culture, what we call a culture of learning. So we're always encouraging innovation, encouraging people to go and learn new things, go to conferences, attend things, get those certifications, get the learning that they need, and I think that makes them all kind of eager to try something new.
So you had to come into Rapid Scale as the outsider, as a account manager, and work your way into influence, if not authority, in a lot of different parts of the business. Yeah. What was your journey like doing that?
Yeah, it started with yelling at a lot of people, and a lot of people yelling at me. So I kind of fit right into that role, and I'm a easy-go-lucky person. But when you come in the morning and you look at your phone and you have a half a dozen clients who are not happy, or service is down and they're not happy with the response, and they want something done today, and they would reach out to me, and I just kind of threw myself into that void. It's the most interesting thing with technical people, and again, I'll speak only for Rapid Scale, is they're all completely capable and they're great firefighters. But conflict avoidance, they did not want to get in the middle of an unhappy client. They just wanted to back away as much as possible and kind of put some digital distance between them and the client. And I just realized, I was like, well, that's not going to work, right? When they're unhappy and they're emotional and their business is at stake, these are companies that have, and I tell this to all the groups that I have, it's like, these are companies that have trusted their business with us. And we can put them out of business if we don't respond and support them properly. And there's been several close calls. So what I did is I just threw myself in the middle of a lot of the chaos. And whether it was technical issues, whether it was architectural issues, we had a data center go out, which took out 800 of our clients for a couple days. So I'm in the middle of communications with the clients and coming up with, well, this hasn't happened before, so we got to figure this out together. And I was happy to just kind of jump in the middle of that. And even things like billing issues. Our billing system, we did what we called subscription usage-based billing, meaning that the bill for a client can look different every month. And our accuracy rate, as we found out, was probably around 70%. So 30% of the money that went out was incorrect. And a lot of times you're just like, look, we got to send out billing for the month, and we'll just see what comes back. And so you're trying to fix that on the fly. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But the short answer is just throwing yourself in the middle of it and getting involved with helping solve immediate problems. And that, what I started to find is that actually gave me some momentum to start solving the bigger problems. But I had to start at the ground level of, I was out visiting a lot of clients, calming a lot of nerves, working with people, bringing in the right resources to help get some things back on track. And that, I think that helped me in the longer run.
And I'm sure being the person who's preventing some of those fires probably earned you some respect and trust from your internal people over time.
I think it did, because I would usually get a call, and when I would get on, I would be on a lot of phone calls during the week. I would just like, look, invite me in. I just want to hear, nothing else. I just want to hear what's going on, just so I can understand the flow. And for those of you that are on calls with your end customers, if you do it a lot, you kind of have a system of, you listen for signs, right? Not what they're saying, but how they're saying things and their underlying emotions. And I feel like I was able to get better at tuning that in, of understanding, like, yeah, they're reluctant. They're saying something, but they're not. We had some really, really nice clients, and you could tell that they were unhappy, but they were polite, south. They didn't want to say so, but you could tell. You're like, hey, tell me more about this, and you kind of bring it out, and you can find out they're unhappy. So drawing that out sometimes, even against their own personalities, we were able to move the needle.
Right. And so as you've made that progression from engineer to account manager to a director of CX, and now you're in your first CXO role.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for someone in the audience who's looking at CXO? That's my endpoint. That's where I want to be.
Yeah. I would say two things. One is, as I alluded to, know your customers. Is to get to know the people that are spending money with you today. Why are they doing that? Their needs are going to change. We're one of the industries where you still have agreements in place. You have 1 or 3 year agreements. So the idea is you're going into a relationship. It's not a transaction. So the idea is that their needs, and I tell customers when they first sign up with us, like, a year from now, what your needs are going to be completely different from what they are today, just guaranteed. But understand that, understand the underlying business needs, and not the technology that you're providing and the services that you're providing, but the underlying, why are they coming to you? What is it that they need from you? What are they trying to solve? And get away, and I heard this yesterday a lot, get away from the vernacular and the business jargon. It's awful. It rolls off the tongue if I start throwing out acronyms that we use or acronyms that you use. It's just, you're comfortable in that. But your customers don't care about that. They care about their problems, and I found that. And then the other one is that you have to be involved. If you're going to be in client experiences, you have to understand all the moving parts of your companies. even if you're not comfortable with what they do. I had some really, really smart technical people, and they would just, speaking of different languages, they would go into, they just went right into their comfort zone, and they were like speaking Klingon, and I was like, I don't know what you're saying, but you kind of dig at some questions, but understanding how all the pieces move in relation to how your clients see the business from the first time they interact with a salesperson or their marketing to all the way through the end to when they get their bill. I never put as much weight on billing as I did when I joined RapidScale, but clients want to know that what you're telling them they're going to get charged and what they're actually getting charged are the same. And so just having equal visibility across the environment, it's not easy. If you're working in large organizations, I'm sure it's not easy, but I think it has to be done.
And Tammi, you were mentioning in preparation, as you're elevating your role and leaning in at EDG, you're really focusing on results. And you've seen some pretty amazing results so far.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of bounce off of what John was saying, that getting to that point where you're taking that seat at the leadership table within your organization. For me, it was important, not coming from the technical side of the business, I needed to bring a different value to that group of leaders. So I focused on what are the returns that we're going to see as an organization if we institute this client experience program. So immediately I needed to know, what's this going to cost us and what's our return going to be, and how soon can we get to that return. As soon as I started providing and proving those numbers, it was a done deal. Once you prove your value to the organization, the seat's available to you at the table. Yeah. So that's how I got there. But yes, using those numbers, we started off with empathy mapping. And it was kind of an easy, quick hit for us because we already did voice of the clients. So we kind of wanted to tailor that a little bit to mirror the empathy mapping that we learned with Client Savvy. And so I took our lifetime, we have a project path that we have diagnosed or diagrammed over the past 3 or 4 years that everybody in the firm is really aware of. It's the project life cycle from start to finish. And unfortunately, it is from start to finish, and really it needs to be a loop. So we've kind of crafted that a little bit too. But then I overlaid that with some of the empathy issues. And I created my own format for that based on some of the things that we learned through Client Savvy and the CXMP program. And I took that to our business development directors and had them identify 5 clients for us. Actually, it turned out to be 4. But identify those top clients that would maybe be our guinea pigs and participate in this exercise just to see what it would produce. And they sat down with our clients. They had 4 that volunteered from different areas of our organization. So we had 2 engineering clients, we had an architectural client, we had an environmental client. Sat down with them and just walked through the project life cycle and said, when we get to this phase of the project, what is it that's really bothering you? What are you feeling? What are you anxious about? What are some of those issues that you're thinking about but maybe not sharing with us, or we're not touching those points for you? And it was funny because the engineers that we interviewed didn't realize that they were having these emotions. They're like, I don't think of myself as an emotional person, but you know what? I am kind of worried right now at this point in the project about what's going on behind the scenes that you're not sharing with me. What is that information? I know you got the project. I know you're doing your job. We've worked with you before. I know it's going to be fine. But if I could just get some reassurance that that's actually happening, then I can go to sleep at night. Easy fix. We just added another piece of communication at that point of the project. So we went through the entire project life cycle like that with each of these clients. And over the past, I would say 18 months to 2 years, we've generated $2.7 million in additional work with those 4 clients. And I'm not saying it was completely attributed to that exercise, but I have to admit that some of that was related. We now understood them a little bit better. We knew where those points are that we could have that communication where we're not bothering them during the project. We're actually giving them a piece of information or sharing a communication with them that helps them go to sleep at night, helps them get through the project, helps them look better to their boss, which is a lot of times the case, really trying to make that project be a seamless and a good experience for them. And I think that this year, going into 2023's strategic planning, that'll be a big component. We're going to roll that out to many more of our top clients, probably looking at the top 20 this year.
So that's not just you understanding the client better, it's the client understanding that you understand them better.
Exactly.
All right, all right, that's fantastic. And John, you talked about a West Coast client that really responded well to some of your CX efforts.
Yeah, some clients are just always always upset at some level. It's just a matter of how upset. As long as they're not upset enough where they leave. But we had a West Coast client. They were in hospitality. They did specialty restaurants. It was actually one of RapidScale's first clients. So imagine our founders were out on the West Coast and they're trying to get business, and this client's like, look, I'm going to take a risk on you. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. So there's a lot of yeses. So fast forward 3 years later, when their agreement was up, our company had changed a lot, and so had theirs. And at some point, you just go, is this client still a good fit? And I was having this conversation with our general manager who runs RapidScale, and I said, I'm going out there. We've got a renewal coming up, and what do you think? He's like, I don't think they're a good fit because they just have needs that we can't support anymore. And he goes, John, they're a $50,000 a month client. They're a good fit for us. So you go figure out how to make them a good fit. So I went out there, and there were some challenges. They weren't happy with some of our services, but in the way we were responding. But I did a couple things. One is I brought several people to the meeting on site, and this was still at the tail end of the pandemic. So California, they still had a mask mandate, so we're all in mask at the table, which was a little bit awkward, but we made it work. But I knew this was not a Teams, or Zoom meeting you had to have. You have to sit across the table, even with mask on, because there's a feel you have to have with them, and it's personal. And this is a very personal company. But the first thing I did is make sure we bring the right people to the table. So I wasn't answering all the questions or making commitments on behalf of other people in my organization. So I had about 3 or 4 other people who had those responsibilities that were like, we're not leaving until we get things ironed out. And the meeting did not go well. I think they were set on leaving us. And what I found out is I was like, well, hold on, let's articulate what the 2 or 3 things that are giving the most pain. And so we put together this whole presentation. And we had this, you work weeks on this deck, and you're like, we're going to go through these 9 bullets, and within 5 minutes, that completely was thrown out the window. It's like, what? Let's just kind of move that aside and let's just talk about us, right? We had a long-term relationship. We want to continue that. What is it that we can do for you? So we got down to brass tacks, and at the end, they said we're not sure, and we left thinking we were going to lose the contract. And we were out in the parking lot. I remember I was not happy because there were some things we did I wasn't happy about. But I said, look, let's go back. It's like, let's not give up on this. Let's go back. And I sent a note over to the COO, and I said, look, this is what I heard. As I followed up, I said, this is what I heard. Let's do this. Let's make some quick changes. And if you agree to this, then can we move forward? So at the end, and he sent me a note back. I was on the plane back from the West Coast, and he said, yes, if we can do those 3 things, then we're good. And his word. And what's great is it was still a small company that spent a lot of money with us, and I knew that the deal was close. So the crux of all that is it's like, just don't ever give up on a client until you do. So you fight until the end, and we made some, and my team was very flexible to be able to accommodate, and we have the client to this day.
Great. So just a couple more questions, then we'll open up for the audience. You shared a lot of the highlights, and I'm sure that's encouraging, but I know you both have stubbed your toes and run into some challenges. So do you have any setbacks that you would like to share, or that you would be willing to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think with any initiative that you're trying to roll out, there's going to be some setback, things you didn't plan for. In our case, we have some middle-level managers that are a little bit hesitant to change. They were brought up through the system. They were super talented technical directors. They really knew how to work the projects. They were fantastically brilliant, produced a lot of content for us in marketing. They were thought leaders. But then they got promoted into director roles where their responsibility became more people management. And so they kind of had a little hesitation about, I've always done things a certain way, this has always been working for me. I don't know why I need to change and do something different. And so that was kind of the headwind that we were facing. Fortunately for us, we have one person in that group who stood up and raised her hand and said, you know what? I've been doing this for 30 years, and I thought I was doing it right. And I probably was, but now I know a new way. And now I know not only is it new, but it's better. And I'm willing to change what I'm doing to try this new way to see what happens. And she's seen remarkable results already out of the gate. So it's just, she's leading by example and showing the others that, yeah, you may have figured out a process that works for you, but let's try something else that may enhance that process. And really, we have really incredible client relationships already. So our CX was probably pretty strong without us really trying to do much of anything. And then layering this on top has just elevated everybody to the next level. So I think that's where our success is coming in. Even though we had that headwind, I feel like we're always going to be facing that a little bit. But the lessons that we're learning along the way are getting us past it.
Right. John, how about you?
Yeah, Tammi, that's a great point. And the emotion of resistance to change is always tough. I would say it's at the end of the day, it's a person business, right? You're dealing with other people who have responsibilities. And I always call it the problem's either a person problem, a process problem, or a product problem. And you go, okay, which one is it? Is it a product broke? That happens. Is it a process that someone didn't follow? You can do coaching. But if it's a person issue, then maybe you go a little deeper there, especially if it's multiple times. But people, everybody at our company was under a lot of stress, and people make mistakes. And the tendency is to be angry at the person for making the mistake. Oh, that's you broke it. But you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to need this person tomorrow because they're going to come back and they're going to be a hero tomorrow on something else. So, supporting them and understanding and helping them work through the problem was always frustrating because for me, because it led to a client not having an optimal experience. And it came down to, because someone didn't follow the right process that we had alluded to. And we had a lot of new people coming in. Right. But yeah, so that always was an issue. You're dealing with people who are still learning, and after a couple of years, it's like, well, my team, we've gone through this 1,000 times, so we know it. But just to assume that everybody else has that same perspective is unfair to them. And you could take potentially a very good employee or someone who's coming up and you could discourage them very quickly and leave if you come out and you're just sort of come out swinging because you have expectations maybe they aren't ready to meet.
Right. Good advice. I'm going to put the poll everywhere up on the screen so you guys can start getting your questions up here. I do have one more question for you guys while the audience gets there. So pollev.com/CXps. If you guys want to go there, you can post your questions. So while these questions are coming in, what's next, Tammi?
I like to dream big, and I can usually picture what the future looks like 5 years out. And so that's kind of where I start, is what I want it to look like in 5 years. And to get to that point, what do I have to do next? So right now we're working through activating promoters with our sellers. And that's going to probably wrap up towards the end of this year. And then I would say, Ryan, what I thought I was going to say right now has changed since I've been here this week. So I had a plan in mind, and I knew what I was going to go into strategic planning with this year and add something new for client experience. And then I came here and went, oh no, I want to change the whole thing. So thank you all for the ideas.
Do tell.
I actually, after I left the sessions yesterday, I sent an email out to our strategic planning team and said, I need an hour in about 2 weeks because I want to shake up some things. So one of the things that kind of came through our strategic plan last year, we just haven't addressed. And I'm afraid we're going to go into strategic planning this year without having addressed it again. So we'll go another year. So I want to knock that out of the way now before we get into strategic planning so that I can pull all of my ideas for CX into this next year's strategic plan. So activating promoters will be wrapping up, and then we're going to go right into client lifetime value. I want to know of those clients that love us, that we love working with, how can we get more work with those folks? And conversely, on the other side of that, who are those clients that don't really love working with us? And quite frankly, we don't really get much value from working with them either. And can we shift some of that? Can we start working with the people that we want to work with and want to work with us? And not that there's a whole lot of that, but I want to give our project managers a little bit of a gift too. Like, I know you don't like working at that company or that organization or that municipality or whatever it is. And let's focus our energy on getting those clients that you really love working with and getting that repeat work with them. So that's my goal for 2023 right out of the gate, along with maybe a few other surprises that I'm going to throw in there too. But,
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Ryan, can I speak to something
Sure,
that Tammy brought up? It came up yesterday. I have to address this, and I love it. I love that it came up, is the idea of resetting it in terms of who you want your clients to be. And I heard this a couple times about firing clients. And in terms of building, another quick story, and this one is it was a smaller client that was causing a lot of problems in our organization. He called a lot, he yelled, he was very unprofessional. And after about the third time, I went to leadership. I said, we're going to fire this client. He's under agreement, doesn't matter. And I sent a note and saying, we're going to give you 30 days to find someone else. And the lift that gave the support team, the internal team, to say thank you for recognizing that this client was a pain in the ass and we don't need him anymore. And I think when you get to a certain point in your organization, I think you have to discern between clients that do truly add value, that see you as a partnership, versus ones that are just an anchor.
Absolutely.
So I love that came up with several times yesterday. Good to see.
Great. And so what's next?
Well,
What's first for you?
Yeah. So
you're in an industry who has an average net promoter score of -30.
Yeah. So the bar is low for sure. I hope I can get it at least to -20. Got to figure that out. Yeah, it's exciting because I'm starting with a relatively clean sheet of paper, which also terrifies me because it's my clean sheet of paper. So I can't look back and say, well, somebody else messed it up. That's me, which that's fine. I'll step into that gap. But the idea is to build something from scratch that over the last couple of years, there's been so many tools and so much recognition on how to make client experience better that if you've been in the industry for a long time, you have this technical debt and these anchors of like, well, we can't get off these systems and it's so hard to move because people are sort of have these ideas. So I get the opportunity to have something fresh and and build it from the ground up. So looking forward to that.
Amazing and terrifying at the same time.
Yes, those are definitely two words glued together.
So it looks like the most popular question here is, what would your advice be for developing a CX program when leaders aren't asking for it? What would you recommend as first steps?
First steps for me were proving what it was, why we need it. So all of that data is available to you. It's a quick Google search. You can find all the information that you need. In our industry especially, we don't address it. It's not something that you're going to hear about everywhere you go. So immediately out of the gate, it's a differentiator. We include it in our proposals. We have a full page that talks about our client experience program and what we're going to do for you as a client. Our project managers are talking to their clients during the build up to that project, letting them know we've changed. This is what we're going to be doing. This is how we're going to communicate with you. You're going to be able to communicate with us throughout the project. So we start drilling that in right away. And I think by sharing those anecdotal pieces with leadership, it was for me it was easy. I know if you're dealing with somebody that's not really on board yet, you're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to show them the numbers, and you're going to have to show them, our hit rate's going to go up, and here's how, and show them when it does actually happen. Our hit rate went from 60, which is still high for our industry, to 65%, and revenue increased too. And I can't always tie that to what we're doing in CX. I tend to think marketing has something to do with it too, so I pat myself on the back twice for that. But we had to prove it to leadership to get them to start. And I invited them to sessions with Ryan and with Blake early on to have them, let them do the presentations for them and show them the evidence. It's always better to hear it from a third party. So if any of you have kids, you know that if you're telling your kid something, it's like in one ear and out the other until somebody at school tells them that, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you're not going to believe this," and you're like, "I literally just told you that." So it's kind of the same thing with this. I mean, I keep telling them, and keep showing them, but really to hear it from a third party, to have that evidence to show them, really helped.
Right. Yeah. It comes down to, it's a business that you're in, right? Client experience is about improving the business at some financial level. Whether it's retaining clients for a longer period of time or drawing more revenue out of that client. I mean, that's, again, I'm going off of my experience here. And the easiest analogy that I use is one that we used when Cox Communications acquired the company is that they're giving you a briefcase full of cash, right? They're just like, here's $1 million. I'm asking for $1 million, and in a certain amount of time, you're going to get $1.5 million back. I mean, that's it. right? All the squishy stuff about, clients are going to be happier and clients are going to, respond better. It comes down to what does that mean to the company? And if you can put it in terms, if you can find a gap that you go, if we do this, this is going to improve this particular line on your, this is going to improve your bottom line, whether it's margin or revenue growth, or mine was relatively easy, thank goodness, was reducing churn that was already prevalent. So it was fixing something that was broken, but you're going to have to find something that's not working. Maybe they're aware of it, maybe they're not. And hopefully they care enough that you can, and this can't be incremental. It has to be a leap. A lot of executives, at least the ones I've dealt with, don't care about incremental. They want large, because they're dealing with a lot of incremental stuff. They want large changes.
Yeah. And my experience is if you show a leader a machine that they put $10 in and they get $20 out, they will find the biggest stack of $10 bills they can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So start small, iterate, find those early wins, and sometimes the leap can be too intimidating for them to invest in the million, but you can say, hey, give me the first 50,000.
Right.
And when I give you back 100, can we now invest that 100?
That's right. Run a
And then when I
pilot.
take that 100 and turn it into 2, can I then reinvest that? So that's another technique I've seen work really well, is iterate with your leaders and negotiate when we show the returns. Can we reinvest those returns into what's next? And that way you really approach CX as a self-funding initiative. That's a great question here. And I would love to have the answer to that. Do you have thoughts about the ideal CX staff ratios? How many dedicated CX people do you need based on firm size? So why don't you start off, how big is EDG, Tammy?
When I started 4 years ago, we were 60 employees. We're now at 80, so we're growing. Ideally, I would want everybody in the company to have a CX after their name, but that's not necessarily going to happen. Right now, it's me. I have 2 business development executives that report to me that also, I obviously use their mentorship and their leadership to help guide our doer sellers. And beyond that, I've got leadership team, obviously, that's on my side with all of that, supporting any initiative that I want to roll out. But as far as hands-on and boots on the ground, I have to get pretty resourceful with that because I still lead the marketing team, so I have them at my disposal, but they're not CX necessarily. They're burdened heavily with marketing tasks. So what I did was formed a committee, a totally voluntary committee of CX. We call them CX engagement, the CX engagement committee. And there are 7 of us on the committee. I lead the committee, but I kind of take a back seat and let them kind of decide the direction that we're going to go. And I pulled somebody from each one of their service groups. So they're really bringing the technical expertise to the committee, and they're also bringing thoughts and ideas back from their teams. So if there's an issue that they're experiencing within their team, they're sharing it with us so we can tweak our program. But having that committee to kind of help take some of that burden of the work away has been really helpful. I envision a future where there's an entire CX team that is separate from marketing. And I'm not sure how far down the road that is, but I need to generate some more revenue first.
Yeah, Rapid Scale was about 220 people as of a month ago. And it was me and my team. Again, it's a hybrid, right? Everyone has to produce. So I had a number I had to grow. I mean, my team's direction was simple: was outrun the churn plus 5% growth, right? So whatever churn is, you gotta oversee it. So the client experience was woven into that structure, but it was so I had 7 people that were responsible for account base and myself. So in terms of dedicated CX team members, I would say you have to leverage people who are accountable to some faction of the experience, and do it indirectly. But you definitely have to spearhead that process.
Yep.
Absolutely.
My observation is this industry is well less than 1% dedicated to CX right now, and probably more like 3% of your staff should be dedicated CX, because there's operations, there's finance, there's marketing, there's sales. I mean, there's just a lot out there. If you got 1,000 people across 24 offices, you kind of need CX everywhere. Mm-hmm. So me personally, I think we're really underserving CX. But that's why you have this panel up here. I think we need more dedicated CX professionals in this industry.
Yep. You definitely need somebody who is thinking that way, again, across the organization, who is saying, let's flip this over, as opposed to the service that we're pushing out to our clients. what do the clients need from us on our service?
Yeah. As a percentage of revenue, what is your CX budget? Do you have formalized budgets for CX?
I didn't. It was like how many clients can you support, and it was all comes down to headcount. So in terms of dedicated, a dedicated line item to client experience, that was woven through marketing, woven through sales, woven through my team. So I can't say it was carved off.
Yeah, mine is wrapped up into marketing. So I have currently a 3% of bookings budget for marketing. I also lump client experience into that category. So I'm in a unique position where I can shuffle funds back and forth between marketing and CX without too many problems there. After sitting through Chad's session yesterday, though, I'm going to be knocking on the door and finding out why I'm not getting more than 3%, because we do include business development in that 3%. So I'm going to be looking for a way to bump business development out of that pile. Yeah.
I do know one of the more progressive CX firms, when they were doing their big push on CX transformation, they tracked it in their timekeeping, and I think they did 2 or 3% of their total labor hours one year were charged to CX. Mm-hmm. So in terms of internal soft cost across the organization, between PMs, CX leaders, everyone in between, mm-hmm. they put about 2 or 3% of their total labor that year into CX.
I should mention our 3% does not include salaries.
Okay.
That's just spend.
That's just spend.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are using time tracking software.
Yes.
Are you billing to the CX project, or are you incorporating that?
We're just starting to. So we just started that in 2022. So I don't have good numbers for that yet. But yeah, we did make that switch at the end of last year.
And I've seen other leaders say CX is a billable activity, so bill it to your clients.
Right, absolutely.
So certainly some diversity on that. Tammi, there's a question for you. Was it hard for you to make the jump from marketing to CX?
Not at all. It was probably the most natural thing that I ever have done. If you think about it, I mean, maybe it's a little bit different in professional services, because I don't know that professional services marketing is the same as marketing for consumer brands. But if you think of it more like a consumer brand, if you start using that mentality of how you're creating experiences, how you're messaging your product, and how you're getting to your client, how are you getting to that audience? It's virtually... It could be so linked together so easily because you're doing the same thing. Now, if you separate yourself from that and you're thinking about professional services marketing and you're only focusing on proposals and that kind of work that you're doing in marketing, which I know this is going to sound strange, but I don't really consider that marketing. That's proposal production. That's journalism, really. It's editing. It's print. It's not really what we consider marketing in a traditional sense. So in the traditional sense of marketing, I think CX is just one of the other avenues that you take with your marketing. That was easy.
Great. Well, John, I see a question for you up here. Why do you think the client agreed to an in-person meeting if they were planning to leave? How did you position it's important to do that in person?
I think instincts are interesting things, experiences. I think there's some posturing there. I think he wanted to state, again, emotionally, he was not happy and he was ready to leave. I don't think I had talked with him several times before. I think he didn't want to leave because then he would have to go find the whole process of moving from one managed services provider to another is a huge lift. And you have to, so there is some negotiation and some, you have to maybe walk out on a ledge and I don't think you're ready to leave yet. But I knew that trying to execute a discussion as good as video is, it was just not the proper thing, even though it was a cross-country flight. I think a lot of clients, good clients, they cry for help before they really truly want to leave. And those are the best clients, the ones that tell you what's going on and go, hey, I think you could do this better and that better. And if they're good clients, you want to listen to them. And those have a lot of, and I use this term weight, those have a lot of weight. And we do listen, and there's, not that the other ones count less, but the ones that are truly dedicated to the relationship, when they're giving you feedback, you definitely want to take it in stride, and he was one of those. A lot of customers in the industry that we're in do a lot of foot stomping before they truly leave, so they're giving you lots of signs.
It's one of the things I love about challenging client feedback. If a client gives you some tough feedback, it's because there's a glimmer of hope that you just might listen.
Yeah.
It's the clients who don't give you the tough feedback that are closer to being out the door. So every time you get some tough feedback from a client, boy, breathe a sigh of relief because they're telling you there's still hope. Just because you guys are both part of this, what have you enjoyed most about the CXMP program?
Oh, wow. I love learning. I'm always going to be looking for some new thing to do and some new thing to try. I want to be innovative. I work for a firm that values innovation. So anything that I can bring to the table that's going to change something, move us forward in a new direction, or inspire somebody to be greater at what they're doing than what they are today, I'm all in for that. So that's probably the reason that I got in and the reason that I wanted to learn more. And, you know, even though I graduated now, I know that there's like a whole calendar of events coming up. You're going to see me in all of those because I love the interaction between everybody that's on the call during the training, and I learn something every time from somebody else in the group, and I don't see that changing. So I think we're all so new at this that we have so much yet to learn.
Yep. And John, you've been a little bit different. You actually launched one of the cohorts that isn't CXMP, but it's just a virtual community in between. What have you gotten out of the cohort program?
Yeah, I was seeking out an organization that focused on client experience, and lo and behold, it was 20 minutes away from where I was working. So how fortunate. So I've been here, I guess about a year, a little, because I came last year or joined the virtual one last year. And really, it comes down to just what we have in this room is the idea of understanding the challenges and successes that peers, different organizations, different sizes, different points in your career path. There are people like me who are sort of at the, on the downslope of your career span. I see there's some people here that are just getting into it, and it's so exciting to hear different individuals talk about what they want to do. And I love the successes, but I also love to hear about the things that didn't go so well. I don't know. There's it's just a great story to hear about something that just went completely up in flames. Of course, you survived it. That's important. But I like to hear both, and just understanding that perspective, and at least comfort in understanding that other people are having the same challenges maybe that I am in my endeavors, and maybe some breakthroughs, however incremental.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a CX cohort program. So if you guys are loving what's happening these couple of days and mixing with each other and hearing each other's stories is just like really lighting you on fire, then join one of our cohorts and start a cohort. If you got fired up by the onboarding panel yesterday and, man, I want to lean in with someone else who's doing onboarding, just let us know. We'll organize a cohort. We'll get the Zoom set up, and you and your peers, you can meet once a month for 5 months to talk through onboarding. John started one that's just kind of open-ended monthly. It's, hey, what are we working on? So it's a little more open-ended. So whatever you guys want to do for a cohort, if you've got an idea or if you want a group, let us know, and we will find you people. John said, hey, I want one of these. Here's my idea. And we found half a dozen people, and you guys met about 10 times. And,
There's definitely some tuning there in terms of making it a value, right? We all have a lot of things to do, and at the end of it, it has to provide value to spend an hour together. But we're a small but mighty group. This is. I don't know if there's other organizations. I don't think there are that focus exclusively on client experience. So look around. These are your cohorts if you're going to stay in this business. Yeah. So we need to hear from each other.
Right. So then, final question: what one word of advice would you give to the audience if they want to follow on this journey? You can use 2 words if you want to use 2 words.
Good, I have 2 words.
All right.
Dream big. Dream big. As big as you can think, as big as you can imagine, go there. You may not get all the way there, but start there and then take a small step towards it every chance you get. I don't know where CX is going in the future, and I don't think any of us really do. But I know that it's going up. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get more inclusive. More people are going to be involved, and more people that are involved, the more great ideas are going to come to the table. Be open to those ideas and jump in.
Yeah, Tammy, you said it. My word is vision. is have a big vision, and then but celebrate successes, incremental successes along the way. One of the things I found was I had this idea of what I wanted it to look like, and I would always get initially I would get a little frustrated about like, oh, we're not getting there fast enough. But if you look closely enough, you can see like, hey, we've improved actually incrementally here. We're moving toward the goal. You'll never get to the goal. Okay, let's just kind of let that out. You'll never get there because your vision should be that big. Like, hey, this is perfection. But the idea is that, and again, going back to the people business, is celebrate wins with people who help move you towards your goal, and they will embrace you in your journey.
Right.
And be willing to change course if it's not what you expected.
Yeah. Failure is a strong word, but reroutes are definitely in the plans.
Yeah, come to CXps next year and completely change what you're going to plan to do, right, Tammy? Right. But hey, guys, thank you very much. Great insights. Let's give it up for John and Tammy.